Okay, hello everyone. 안녕하세요. 네. Thank you everyone for making the time to come here today and be with us for this semester's very first colloquium talk by the Nam Center for Korean Studies. My name is So-Young Kim. I'm the director of the Korean language program here at the University of Michigan. And I'm very pleased to introduce today's presenter, Professor Sang-Seok Yoon from the University of Iowa. He is assistant professor in Korean linguistics in the Department of Asian and Slavic Languages and Cultures at the University of Iowa. He started learning or studying linguistics early on, so he studied linguistics for his undergrad study at Korea University in South Korea and earned his master's degree and PhD in Korean linguistics from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. His research interests include sociolinguistics, pragmatics, and teaching Korean as a foreign or second language. He especially specializes in linguistic politeness of the Korean language, which is related to today's topic as well. On top of serving as faculty at the University of Iowa, he devoted a lot of his time in the field of Korean education, and until recently, he served as the president of the Midwest Association of Teachers of Korean, MATK, and in his tenure, he organized the annual Midwest Korean Speech Contest for the students in the Midwest area and held various seminars for Korean educators in the Midwest area as well. He's also one of the authors of the well-known Korean textbook series called Integrated Korean, published by the University of Hawaii Press, and which is the most commonly used Korean textbook in the US. Also, last but not least, he's a famous YouTuber running the channel titled Professor Yoon's Korean Language Class, and currently he has over 160,000 subscribers. Yeah, so and all of us here at the U of M Korean language program are big fans of his YouTube channel. So we often go to his channel, refer to his video clips to learn ideas and information about how to teach Korean grammar better and get some examples for our own classes as well. So today, he's gonna give us a talk on social meanings of Korean honorifics beyond politeness markers. So please welcome Professor Yoon.
여러분 안녕하세요. Of me. It's my honor to talk to this group at the University of Michigan, which is a very prestigious university. And I'm very happy to talk about this topic, honorifics and politeness. So how many of you are learning this Korean language currently? How many of you are taking this Korean language? Oh, okay. So I have been teaching the Korean language more than 20 years, and honorifics is one of the most challenging area, how to teach those, complicated grammar patterns, and how to teach our students to use them, appropriately in conversation. So yeah, I would like to talk about this topic today. If you ask any random Korean person, what is 존댓말, what is honorifics, they would answer you like, you have to use special language to a person who is older than you are, or someone who is in a position higher than you are. Then I explained like this to my students, and they say, all people are equal. Are there upper people, lower people, higher people? So I don't like that. Some people, showed their suspicion about using this honorifics. And one of my students asked me this question too. Then he asked me, would you use honorific form to a criminal, if there is a person who killed other people, would you use honorific form to them? I answered, well, probably I'll use, honorifics if that person didn't kill, my friends or my family members, Maybe I would talk to him with anger, why did you do such a terrible thing? But still in the honorific form. Then is it showing my respect to that criminal? I don't have any respect, I don't have any reason to show my respect to that person, but still, many Korean people will agree to my opinion. And I learned that, I have to use this honorific form to older people. So, even though I don't have any intention of respect or anything, I use, honorific form to people who are older than I am. Then, what are honorifics? So that was my question. So I wrote my dissertation about this, honorifics. And I learned a lot of things that I did not, think about, before. So I would like to share my thoughts with you guys so that you can have better understanding about this Korean honorifics. Doesn't go forward. It doesn't work. Okay. Yeah. So let me first talk about what communicative competence is. This is very popular theme in the field of second language education. So in the past, when we teach a foreign language, when we learn a foreign language, for example, when I learned English in Korea many years ago, I thought I had to memorize lots of words, and I had to learn lots of grammar patterns. And I tried to pronounce English sentences, listening to English native speakers' recordings. At that time, we used this cassette tape. So I listened to this cassette tape many, many times. And how are you? I'm fine, thank you. And you? I memorized those kind of patterns. And when I came to America, I realized that nobody is answering my greeting. I'm fine, thank you. And you? Nobody was talking like that. But you may have noticed that many Korean people or Japanese people will answer you. If you say how are you? They will answer you back I'm fine, thank you. And you? That was the pattern. And I learned that to the question, question would you mind? The answer to this pattern, would you mind, should be no. I learned that way. Would you mind taking this? Oh, no. So if I really mind, how would I answer? I did not learn those kind of things. So I learned lots of grammar patterns and many words. I took GRE in Korea, and it was very difficult to memorize those many, heavy words. Even though I memorized lots of words and grammar patterns, I could not make myself understood, by American people easily. The one occasion when I first came to Hawaii, Hawaii is a very multicultural society, so it's different from here, but still, they speak English. And I was walking around this area near Waikiki, and there was a police officer, very big and scary looking, and he looked at me, and he said "What's up?" like this, "What's up?" So yeah, I was very scared, and the police officer was asking me, "What's up?" I understood that as what's happening, or what are you doing? Why are you walking around this area? So I answered no and ran away. And I realized it was just a greeting many, many years later. So, okay, just memorizing grammar patterns and words, they are not enough for speaking in a foreign language. So that's what I learned at that moment. So in these days, when we teach a foreign language, we consider, there are lots of arguments talking about this, pragmatic competence. This organizational competence is about linguistic knowledge, pronunciation and grammar and vocabulary, those kind of things. But this pragmatic competence is about how to speak appropriately in a certain context. So yeah, you understand what I mean, right? So you may have occasions where you understand what other people say, Well, you grammatically, you know the semantic meaning clearly, but intended meaning maybe different from what they actually say. Well, even in your native language, someone says no, but actually yes, yes or no. So like some reading others' intention and implying something indirectly. It's not an easy task, even among these native speakers, themselves too. So yeah, it's a very tricky and challenging, but we have to teach this pragmatic competence. That has been a great issue in the foreign language education field. But it's not clear, and it may be, depending on people, it's different, and depending on context, it's different. So, it's still challenging. But honorifics is related to this area very closely. Then how to be polite in English. So I thought about this. And maybe you want to address other people with some title like Mr., Mrs., Sir, Madam, Professor, someone, or something like this, right? And maybe you can use structures like can you and could you. Could you, is it true that could you sound a little more politer than simple can you? Can you? Could you? And why don't you? Would you mind if I was wondering if I would appreciate if it is something like this. There are numerous structures that you speak in a polite way. So maybe you know much more than I know, right? Then you are making a simple request to your friend, like you need a quarter to this parking meter. Then in that case, what kind of structure would you use? Would you say like, would you mind borrow me a quarter? Or like you are asking your close friend, you are asking a stranger, you are asking a person or your professor. Maybe depending on the context, you may use different type of different structures, right? So yeah, it's not a simple matter. And among these native speakers of English, maybe you guys choose different patterns more depending on the context or depending on your feelings more, whatever, And you want to be you want to express your gratitude to someone, politely. Thank you for doing something. That's kind of you. There are numerous expressions for that. And you may want to use structures like I'm afraid, you could be right, but I would love to, but I'm afraid I can't, unfortunately. So there are lots of different structures to accomplish a certain purpose. You want to refuse one's proposal. Then there are numerous ways, depending on the imposition of the situation and depending on the person you are talking to, depending on the context you are talking with. So there are lots of things you have to consider. So this is so-called context. You have to consider the context to choose an appropriate form. You may want to teach English in Korea, then how would you teach these kind of things? It's not a simple matter. And you are learning the Korean language, then how would you express those kind of minute, different nuances in Korean? That is very challenging, but very important. So let's specifically talk about honorifics. So you guys are learning this concept, honorifics, right? Yeah. So honorifics, what are honorifics? So somebody, Brown and Levinson, they defined honorifics like this: direct grammatical encodings of relative social status between participants or between participants and the persons or things referred to in the communicative event. Does it make sense to you? Kind of. So there are two aspects of this honorifics. Whom you are talking to is very important. You are talking to your friend. You are talking to your professor. You are talking to an old person whom you never met before. So this addressee is important. And you are talking about your father to your teacher. You are talking about your grandfather to your friend. So even though your grandfather is not here, there are devices to show your respect to your grandfather, to your friend. Do you understand what I mean? So I am talking about my grandfather to you guys, but at the same time, I still use some specific forms to describe my grandfather's shape or actions or, So Korean is very complicated language. Then, Do we have honorifics in English? Maybe, as I just said, like, titles, Mr., Miss, those kind of titles. And, we may use different structures to show your different degrees of politeness. So, maybe we can call them honorifics, but Korean is much more complicated than that. We change this verbs or adjective forms differently depending on the person you are talking to or depending on the person you are talking about. Anybody has learned Japanese? Japanese has similar system, so Japanese has honorifics. And anybody has learned Chinese or speak Chinese? In Chinese, there used to be lots of honorifics in Chinese language, in the Chinese language, but recently it has been much more simplified. So I learned Chinese when I was in college, and at that time, there were like expressions like 您贵姓大名, what's your precious last name and great first name, or something like that. And I asked my Chinese students, do you use that kind of expression? No, we don't use that kind of expression anymore. So yeah, it seems like Chinese honorifics has been much more simplified. And in North Korean society, it's like communist society. So I heard that they use a little less honorifics, but still, they use, the honorifics in their own way. A little different, but basically the same. The school grammar teaches like this. The choice of the Korean honorific form depends on the degree of the speaker's respect for the addressee and the formality of the situation. So two factors, addressee and the formality. So I'm talking in front of you. So if I make my presentation in Korean, I would use 습니다 form more. Like 안녕하세요, 뭐뭐 합니다. The 습니다 is considered the most formal style. Yeah. So, in English too, you can hear you have this style, like formal style. So formality is very important. And whom you are talking to is also important too. If we just take these definitions, directly, then if you are talking to a socially higher person in a formal situation, you have to use the most polite and formal style consistently. Does it sound correct? So probably you need to speak in 습니다 form all the time. So from my personal experience, probably that's not true. So I analyzed this talk show conversations. So in talk show, MC is the person who lead this program, and there are audiences, and I analyzed this MC's conversation with the audience. And generally they use 습니다 form, but sometimes they use 어요 아요 form too. And sometimes they even use this non-polite, non-honorific forms too. So why does that happen? If these definitions are the correct ones, then people can use a certain form consistently. But actually, in actual conversation, this use of honorifics is very dynamic and active. So that was my the starting point of my study. Then what are considered honorifics? So for addressee honorifics, so depending on the person you are talking to, you should use a humble pronoun. When you refer to yourself I, then you have to use this humble form 저. 저 is just I, but it's like a way of talking about yourself in a humble way. 저는. And when you talk about yourself to your friend, you use 나. 나 is just a plain form. So when you talk to your professors, don't use 나는. You have to use 저는. Many Korean American students use 내가, 나는. 저는. So I always say like that. And second person pronoun 당신 is very tricky. So, in many books describe 당신 is an honorific form. So my students call me 당신. What are you talking about? So 당신 can be honorific form when you use it in a writing form. Like in a survey, 당신은 올해 몇 살입니까? So how old are you this year? In that kind of written context, 당신 can be an honorific form. But in oral conversation, communications, language, 당신 can be very rude. I would use 당신 to a stranger who tried to steal my stuff. 당신 말이야. So 당신 is a very rude form in speech. And 어르신 literally means old person, and 어르신 can be used to call 할아버지, old man or old woman, as a personal pronoun. But by the way, Korean pronouns are not well developed, because for second person pronoun like 너, you cannot it's very rude to address someone with a pronoun. So you have to find the appropriate title or certain way to address that person. For example, 선생님 means teacher, but 선생님 is generally used as a general second person pronoun in many cases. Even 사장님 is like a business owner, like president. That can be used to refer to address an old man, just middle-aged man, 사장님. Yeah. And there are many ways of addressing other people, but they rarely use second person pronoun in interpersonal communication when the situation requires honorifics. And terms of address, okay, I just talked about that. And sentence endings. So what I'm going to focus on is sentence endings. So how to conjugate verbs and adjectives. That's very complicated and difficult. So when I learned English, conjugating English verbs and adjectives were very difficult. Like if the subject is singular, then you have to put more s. So that kind of process is called conjugation. So I sing, she sings. So yeah, it's a very new concept to me. So I had to always think about if the subject is a single person or multiple person. But in Korean, this number system is not really important. So the subject is plural or singular. That doesn't really affect this conjugation of a verb. So yeah, it's a kind of new system. Even I always make mistakes when I use these verbs, singular or plural. But for Korean, but even though I make mistakes in singular verb form or plural verb form, you may understand. Or maybe his English is a little bit broken. Maybe you think that way, but it still makes sense. But in Korean, if you don't use appropriate honorific form, then you will be misunderstood as a rude person or undereducated person or, just young, rude, bad person maybe. So yeah, it is very critical. It affects our social relationship. Korean honorific, addressee honorific speech styles are this complicated. So there are honorific styles and non-honorific styles. So deferential and polite, blunt. So they are just named by this linguist, so you don't really care about the term themselves. But this 씁니다 form is used, in a formal situation to a person who is older than you are. And your style, generally, you may know this your style more, fluently, right? So in Korean language classes, we teach from this your style. I heard that they used to teach 씁니다 style in the beginning level, but nowadays we teach your style. That reflects the change of the society in Korea. Korean society used to be more like formal and more masculine, but recently it has been changed. So your style works, most cases. So yeah, your style is the safest style, I would say. And there are blunt, familiar. Those two styles are obsolete, so they are not, frequently used in everyday conversation. So you don't really have to think about blunt and familiar style now. And intimate and plain styles are so-called 반말, so casual style. So to your friends, you can use intimate and plain, and to your teacher, you should use deferential and polite levels. How many levels have you learned so far? 어요아요 and maybe 씁니다? Yeah. And if you are taking third, fourth year Korean, maybe you have learned intimate and plain style. So yeah. So far okay? Yeah. So very not okay. So yeah, my question is, Okay, as I said, if I'm talking in a very formal situation to older people, maybe I have to use consistently, the deferential style. And if I'm talking to my friend, maybe I use, this style consistently. But it's not always the case. Why is it like that? 저는 집에 갑니다. 저는 집에 가요. 나는 집에 가. 나는 집에 간다. So the other parts are all the same, but the first person pronoun 저 and in the bottom lines 나 are used and 씁니다 요 은다. So 저는 집에 갑니다. Maybe I report my action, my activity to my teacher. Then 저는 집에 갑니다. And to your teacher, if you like the teacher and you are close to that teacher, maybe you can use 저는 집에 가요. 나는 집에 가 to your friend. 나는 집에 간다. Almost the same, but 은다 sounds a little more casual, I would say. No, in terms of, but similar, yeah. So they are all casual style, but 은다, that style is sometimes some people say that's more masculine, and some people say that implies a little bit of a lower meaning. So if we say they are hierarchical in terms of this politeness level, 은다 style is the lowest among them. But they are used interchangeably in many occasions. If you are a big fan of Korean drama, you will hear those 은다, form, intimate and the plain style most often. And if you watch like drama where they make presentations, you will see 씁니다 form more often. And that was addressee honorifics, and there are cases when we show our respect to a person who is not present at this moment. So 김 교수님께서는 댁에 계신다. So I am talking about someone, 김 교수님, who is older than I am, maybe older than you are, and 김 교수님 is not here, but I would still say 김 교수님께서는 댁에 계신다. This 댁 is an honorific word for 집, so house. So when we refer to an older person's house, we have special word. And 계시다 is an honorific word for 있다. So when you say like I'm here, 저는 여기 있어요. But if you describe an older person is somewhere, then 계신다, we use different verb. 김 교수님께 선물을 드렸다. So to Professor Kim, I gave a present. So 드리다 is a humble verb. So from lower person to higher person, if you give something to an older person, we use this 드리다 form. Isn't it very crazy? Yeah, that person is not even here. So honorific verb 드시다, 주무시다, 계시다, 드리다. To eat, to sleep, they are very basic human actions. For those some basic human actions, we have special words to describe older person's action. And honorific nouns like house, name, age, very basic information about someone who is in a socially higher position, we have special words. And if we, so even particles, to someone or from someone, we use 께 instead of 에게 or 한테. Have you learned 에게, 한테? Its honorific form is 께. And 께서 is an honorific form of 이가, 내가, 선생님께서. So 께서 is an honorific form of 가. 께서는 is a topic. 나는, 저는, 선생님께서는. So we have honorific particles. And when you conjugate, like socially higher person's action, you can conjugate verb adding the suffix 시. So for basic words like eat, sleep, we have special words. But for other words, you can just conjugate them by adding this 시. Do I make you guys more complicated? 그쵸, 예. Just follow what your teacher teach you at that moment, and then you will eventually learn those kind of things. Then how politeness and honorifics are related? So traditionally and still many people believe that honorifics are politeness markers. But that is generally true. We use honorifics to show our respect to other people. To be polite, we use honorific forms. That's not wrong. So Korean honorifics have been explained as politeness markers developed to show respect to an addressee or referent. Scholars of Chinese and Japanese argue that In East Asian countries, knowing one's position in a group and using appropriate language for that position is rooted in social norms. So like, as I said, many of my students think that all men are equal. So, if that situation requires politeness, you can be polite. But otherwise, you can be casual. But in Korean society, there is a hierarchy. So like you are with your professor, then, your professor is older than you are, and teacher. This job, teacher, should be respected. Teacher should be respected in Korea. Even though your teacher is younger than you are, the teacher should be respected. But in American society, my feeling is teacher is just the person who teaches. But in Korean society, teacher, we never stepped on even teachers' shadows. So, we will respect, teacher. 근데, in American society, the concept of teacher, I know you guys respect your, professors, but it's a little different. So, in Korean society, in China, in Japan, in these societies, there is a hierarchy. And what is polite? What is politeness? In the Western society, behave appropriately in the context. Maybe, that's the way you show your respect to other person. But in Korean society, there is another thing, like you should understand your position. You should calculate your position in a group. There are many people, and that person is older than I am, that person younger than I am. I am the third in this group. So you understand your position and behave appropriately. That's really tricky even to Korean people. So that's why I escaped from Korea and living in the United States. So I address the dean in my university. I just call them by their first name. And when we have like casual conversation, I just talk equally to him. And that's very natural. But if I were in Korea, maybe I could not. Maybe I don't have a lot of chance to see the dean of my university. So there is a huge hierarchy. If I want to see him, maybe I have to make an appointment and 안녕하세요. Lots of bows. So this hierarchy thing is really important in the Korean society. Then how do they use honorifics in reality? I found that teachers and parents use honorifics to their students and children. When I remember, I think about my elementary school days. Our teachers, they used honorific forms to us. Then does that mean that the students were socially higher than the teacher? No. In kindergarten, teachers always use this honorific form. 이리로 오세요, 앉으세요. Why do they do that? Maybe educational purpose, right? And when I talk to my students in Korean, I sometimes use honorific form for educational purpose or to be professional, like I'm your teacher. And this context is talking about your academic, achievement. Your grade is terrible. What are you going to do with this? I would deliver my information like this in honorific form. 어떻게 할 거예요? 시험을 안 봤어요. You did not take the test. 왜 안 봤어요? But if I am close to that people, my students, and talking about some casual thing, like what did you do in Korea? So did you like Korea? Then 한국 가서 뭐 했어? 재밌었어? I use this intimate style. So depending on the purpose of my speech, I switch this form. And I'm talking to my students in a polite form. 여러분 오늘 수업은, so I'm talking about my class, and I would use this honorific style. But suddenly one of them is sleeping. 야, 너 뭐해? I suddenly switch to intimate style to talk to that specific person. And I use this non-honorific style to directly, to imply that I'm directly talking to you, and I'm talking to you as I'm kind of scolding you more. That lots of meanings are implied by switching this honorific form. Then it's not consistent, right? So there are implied meanings in each speech level, other than showing respect to other people. So that was my idea. So yeah, I'll talk more about this, intended meanings and social meanings of this honorifics later. But I would like to say that there's no, it's not just simple politeness marker. Use of honorifics may be used to express dignity or elegance, femininity, thanks, or sincerity. Sometimes some like middle-aged woman who use very elegant language, but using more yo ending to like younger people. So it's not like showing my respect to the listener, but to show that I'm an educated person, I'm a very polite person, I'm cultured person. That kind of meaning is implied. So sometimes people use honorifics to show their, to make their character, to show their characteristics of like a well-educated and elegant person. And also honorifics are used to express psychological distance, deflect anger or sarcasm. There are lots of examples like couples, married couples. Wife is suddenly using honorific form to her husband, then something is going wrong. Yeah, so it's not showing respect, right? So yeah, your style is generally such that it's a like very soft, and friendly style. But depending on the context, it can be an expression of distance and anger, even anger. So yeah, think about your mom or dad is calling you by your last name, Mr. something. So there must be more maybe joking, or maybe there is another intended meaning. People often switch speech style with the same person in the same context, even between honorific and non-honorific styles. So this is not well studied in the area of Korean linguistics. So I looked into this phenomenon. It was like 2010, and recently there are more studies about this speech style shifting phenomenon in the field of Korean linguistics. So my questions were like, how and why do Korean people switch their speech styles? And what are the pragmatic meanings of Korean sentence endings of each speech style? So pragmatic meanings means like intended meaning. Other than showing respect, what other meanings are implied? And my data were like TV show conversations, generally talk show, debate programs. So that include talk show programs and debate programs. So I tried to show some formal settings and informal settings. So do you watch Korean 예능 program, entertainment programs? 안 봐요? Don't you watch Korean entertainment? Running Man 요즘에 do you guys still watch Running Man? Yeah. And by the way, it's really good way of learning the Korean language. There are lots of subtitles with their conversations, so it's a good way to expose yourself to natural conversations in Korean. So watch lots of 예능 program. And debate programs are generally like political debate. It's a formal situation, and the speakers are generally like more Congress people or more experts on certain areas. So they use very formal style languages. So, and generally conversations are controlled by an MC, and other the talk show programs are very casual and lots of interruptions and lots of changes in their speech styles. So I looked into those casual and formal conversations. To analyze this, I adopted this concept of indexicality. To think about this language. Language itself is an index. So indexicality means that depending on the context, the meaning changes. If I say here, at this place, then it refers to this area. If I say here, the same word in other place, the meaning changes. So yeah, languages are always like that. I use 습니다 form in front of you guys, then it implies formality. But if I use the different 습니다 style to my daughter, it means something else, like I'm angry or I'm joking. Or so like language is index. It's indexicality can be applied to in any occasion. Can you understand what I mean? Like this meaning is realized in a context. Without context, we cannot, clearly talk about what the intention of the speaker. 예, 그렇죠. So yeah, this is to, yeah, how many minutes do we have? Okay, yeah. So when I analyzed this, I adopted this concept of indexicality. So as I said, the meanings can be changed. Meanings are changed depending on the context. And footing. Footing is like a participant alignment or stance in a conversation. You want to take this stance. You want to take different stance. You speak depending on how you how to change your stance. You use different types of language style. So for example, I'm talking about a serious topic. And I try to make jokes, in the middle of this serious conversation, and my stance changes. And I'm talking to Kim So-yeon 선생님 as the organizer of this event, and as a personal friend, I would use different type of languages. So that's the stance. So I try to see. I adopted this concept of indexicality and footings, and I analyzed the conversations. And these conversations are from talk show conversation. This is the same person. This you. This actually 유재석. You maybe some of you know. Yeah. So 유재석 is talking to the same person. This person called 진욱. And in the first line, he said, 진욱 씨, 저기 생수 같은 거 그거. So he is giving a direction to 진욱. Can you pass me this water to me? And 진욱 does not understand what he is talking about, and he is giving him a different kind of thing. 진욱아 말 좀 들어라. 고집이 세냐. He suddenly changes his style to honorific style to non-honorific style to the same person and the same situation. What has been changed? It's the same talk show program. In the first line, this person is taking the role as a MC of this show, host of the show, and suddenly he switched his stance to his friend or his 형. So he is older than this 진욱 씨. So 진욱아 말 좀 들어라. Suddenly he's scolding him with this non-honorific style, and by doing this, this situation is a little bit funny. So I guess he intentionally did this. So this kind of situation always happens in natural conversation. And another example is from on-stage to off-stage stance. Actually, they are MCs of a talk show program. Both of them are MCs. And 실제로 데이트 신청한 적 있어요? So has he ever asked you to go out? And this person said, 그럼요, of course. And looking at another host and in a low voice, 거봐, 내 말이 맞다니까. And so, she knows that this voice can be heard from other people. They are having these microphones. But suddenly changes her speech style to non-honorific style, as if she's privately talking to her colleagues. But that is heard by other people. She knows that, and just show some twist of this speech style change. So from on stage, and this low voice remark was kind of sounds like off stage conversation. So from on stage to off stage. And there were occasions where they were talking about a serious topic and suddenly changes to a joking stance. So I put this participants' ages there. The Lee, this female is 45 years old, and Gu, this person was 84 years old, so much older person. 저 있는 거 아셨어요? Did you know that I was here? And Gu answers, 몰랐어. I didn't know that. 몰랐어? And she just switched her speech style to non-honorific style. This is unacceptable in natural situation. But she said this in a funny voice, and it sounds like she is showing her anger kind of thing, in a funny way. So yeah, that was accepted, and it was not considered inappropriate in that conversation. If I just write this way, then it sounds very weird, but in actual conversation, it was okay. So I analyzed this part as okay, it was a serious to joking stance. And from main storyteller to commentator stance, there are occasions we talk about this long story. And in the middle of the story, sometimes people try to specifically add more information on a specific event. Like this. This Kim, this person is talking about his marriage life. And 그러니까 그렇게 하겠대요. So she wanted to that. And Lee is a host of the show. 예. 그렇게 하다 보니까 5년을 떨어지게. So we lived separately. And then 별거를 한 거지 그러니까. So that part is expressed in the non-honorific style. But it sounds like it's a kind of additional information to the main storyline. So yeah, it didn't really sound like this person is talking to that person directly, but just providing information a little bit alongside with this main story. So we can see, I could see lots of occasions like this. So you are not just telling this person this information, but he already said, and then add some information in this non-honorific style. And there are numerous cases when they say in a non-honorific style while talking in honorific style. So all honorific style, but suddenly 깜짝이야. Oh my, I'm so surprised. Oh my, but that kind of expression. 창피해, 창피해. I'm embarrassed. 추워. 힘들어, 징그러. Those kind of spontaneous reactions were realized in this kind of non-honorific style. So what do you think? You are so cold. You feel so cold. Oh, it's cold. You are talking to another person. 너무 추워요. If you simply say 추워요 in this honorific style, I'm telling you, I'm so cold. But I'm cold. So it sounds like you are talking to yourself. It's not clear. Am I talking to myself? Then why do I speak to myself in front of other people? Or am I telling this person this information? It's a little bit unclear, but there are spontaneous reactions were realized in non-honorific style, and I thought it was interesting. And listener responses, you are showing your interest or agreement to other people. Like, really? No way. That's correct. That's right. That kind of expressions were often realized in the non-honorific styles. 진짜? Really? You can say 진짜요? That's possible. But if you say 진짜요, that sounds like a question to me. So 진짜? Or 설마? No way. 설마요? 설마? 맞아. That's correct. 맞아요. 그래. 그래요. So you can choose to express them in honorific styles, but I have found that many people use them in non-honorific style, and the conversation goes very naturally. By the way, do you speak to yourself sometimes? I watched a Korean talk show program where there are many foreigners talking about Korean culture, and they say that Korean people tend to speak themselves often. So yeah, I found that interesting. Don't you talk to yourself like you are walking and you hit somewhere? 아파. Do you say something like that? No? It hurts. Oh, don't you say it that way? I asked my students and they say, I would never do that. Some students answer that way. Some students say, maybe, yeah. What do you think? Sometimes, yeah. I think Koreans do this more often than Americans. So Korean people tend to speak to themselves. It's not clear. Are they really talking to themselves, or are they talking to other directly? So there are more examples like this. So what about this? Bong Joon-ho, the director Bong Joon-ho, and this is like interview with famous anchor announcer 손석희 and Bong Joon-ho. And this 손석희, this MC is saying that 말씀을 듣다 보니까 잠깐 이의를 제기하고 싶습니다. While listening to you, I wanted to make a formal objection. And this Bong Joon-ho responded that 무섭다. It's not 무섭습니다. You sound scary. No, he just said 무섭다. 예. 봉태일이시잖아요. 디테일에 강한 거. You are referred to as 봉태일, and you are very attentive to details. And this 무섭다, this expression, is he telling this 손, you are making me scary? This message, he's definitely delivering this message, but he is saying as if he's talking to himself. 무섭다. 무섭다. Yeah. So yeah, I found it interesting. So think about English case. You know, in an English conversation, if someone say like, "I'm scared," does it sound like he's talking to this directly to the announcer, or what do you think? Yeah. So I analyze this like talking to himself while delivering his mental situation. 모르겠어. 예. And this conversation is like MC and a random guest on the street. 저희가 어떤 프로그램인지 알고 계세요? So on the street, this MC is asking a random person, "Do you know what kind of program this is?" 아, 그렇구나. 이제 보니까 맞아. She is telling in this non-honorific style, but she's talking as if she's talking to herself. Oh, that's right. I think I know this. 뭐죠? 퀴즈 문제. So she's keep telling this in non-honorific style, but it doesn't sound like she's talking. This guest is talking directly to the MC. So it sounds okay, but still, it's a non-honorific style. So I found this kind of interesting. And when people make self-correction, sometimes they say like this. 제 사연을 그 제출. 그러니까 뭐라 그럴까? 응모를. 응모. So this person is searching for a right word for this situation. And 제출 means submission, and 응모 means like entry and what is the meaning of 응모? 응모 is like submission of something. So they are similar words, but this guest is searching for the correct word. 제출 그러니까 뭐라 그럴까? This part is expressed in this non-honorific style, but showing that I'm searching for the right word. Do you have this kind of occasion when you speak in English? What is the word? How can I put this? But that kind of expressions are realized in non-honorific style, but it doesn't sound impolite. Yeah. And sometimes, when they don't know what to say, they sometimes say something in non-honorific style, but it's like, so I just named this, with this term filler. So 사장님께서도 효희 씨 소개를 해주시면 어떤 분이십니까, 효희 씨는? So if you introduce 효희, your daughter, what kind of person is your daughter? 글쎄 뭐라고 왜 소개를 해야 되나? How shall I introduce her? So he's talking as if he's talking to himself, but anyway, this person is like filling this gap. He is thinking about how to introduce his daughter to other people, and this kind of fillers were realized in non-honorific style. So yeah, I have shown you guys, when the situation requires honorifics, like television programs, very formal situation, and they know that this program is going to be televised to general audience. So the default language style is honorific style, but in the middle of, among this, honorific styles, they sometimes use non-honorific styles. So I showed you guys the cases when they use non-honorific styles. So like as a conclusion, linguistic forms and social identities do not have to be intrinsically related, but maybe indirectly indexed in a social context. So what I mean is, like, because I'm younger, because you are older, you have to use certain style. It's not like that. But you have to understand the context clearly, and people use certain form very often. So people generally have this kind of concept of honorifics. When I was little, I learned that 어요 style should be used. 어요 style is used by among these little kids or women, and men, adult men, should use 습니다 form. So when I was serving the military, we were supposed to use 습니다 style. 안녕하십니까, 뭐뭐입니다. So we were punished if we used 요 style. And in the past, guys used to use 습니다 form more often, but nowadays I think people use more 어요 style among guys too. So they used to say 습니다 is a male style, 어요 is female style. That's wrong. So yeah, it's not always like that. The use of honorific style is dynamic, and people strategically or unconsciously make use of honorific forms to regulate their interpersonal relationships, not always passively following social conventions. Korean native speakers change footings and construct their identities in the same discourse by shifting speech style. So as I said, as an MC, as a friend, as a person who is making jokes, you can switch. You may use different speech styles depending on the stance you take at the moment. So yeah, this is really challenging. How to teach this. This very dynamic, nature of conversation. As I said, generally speaking, that is true. You use honorific forms to show your respect to other people, but that's not always the case. So students need to provide it with various social situations in class. But class is very limited, so I recommend you guys watch lots of Korean drama. Then, yeah. I think dramas are better than movies. Movies are too, concise and compact. So long drama, then you will be exposed to similar situation very often. And some meta-pragmatic knowledge. So what I explained to you today is kind of meta-pragmatic knowledge. Should be explicitly taught for raising students' awareness on pragmatic features. So yeah, sometimes we need this kind of discussions to talk about the language. Honorifics should be taught and understood in the context of understanding the indexical nature of honorific forms. So rather than, okay, this form is used in certain context, but you have to consider lots of variety of contextual information when you learn and when you teach honorific forms in Korean language class. Yeah, that's it. That I prepared for today. Yeah. Any questions or comments or anything? Yeah. You guys are so quiet, so.
What is the difference between politeness and formality?
Politeness and formality. So you can be polite to your friend, but it doesn't have to be formal, right? So, and I can be very formal, but I can be very rude too, right? So in military, when I was serving military, we were punished and scolded lots of times in a very formal way, but they were not polite at all. So, yeah. So if we define this politeness and formality, maybe we need long description, but maybe you can understand what it means by formality and politeness. So politeness is like okay. If we let me just tell you about this politeness. What are politeness? If you say some good things to other people. Like you tell me like, oh, you are such a great, presenter, or well, you look great, handsome. Then you are trying to make me feeling good, right? Yeah. So that's one way of politeness. So we call that like positive politeness. And if I look very busy, but you want to ask me some questions, but maybe you don't want to bother me if you are a polite person. So that aspect is negative politeness. Know what I mean? So when I want to praise someone, so I'm taking the strategy of positive politeness. And if I want to make requests to other people, you want to borrow money from me, then maybe you want to say like something like, would you please, so if you don't have money, that's fine, but would you possibly, so you may want to say some long kind of like narration to make that happen. Then that's a kind of negative politeness strategy. So yeah, that's about politeness. Formality is a little kind of different concept. Like are there some regulations, or it is organized more in certain way, or is it very free to talk something? Then it's about that. So it's like a little different concept. Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question. You said that it's true that for some students, it's only limited to the class to learn Korean. And as you said, like Korean dramas are like a good way to learn outside of the class. Is there any other things that as a student could do to kind of like boost other than like K-dramas?
Well, maybe you want to sing along K-pop songs. And I really recommend students reading, Korean, books. But that's very challenging. But in my university, I sometimes give my students assignments reading some Korean text using this AI translators. So I try to find some weird sentences. So like AI translators often make weird sentences. Then translate this into English and let me know what part you've found weird or not understandable. Maybe that's because of this linguistic problem, or it's culture problem. So yeah, I recommend students reading some text. And are you interested in any cultural, like do you have any favorite girl groups or something? If you have any interest in something, you can search for information on the internet and try to understand that. That's what I tried when I learned Chinese. So I could not understand Chinese text about China, but when there are articles about Korea, then that was much easier to understand. So yeah, I tried to find something that I know already and try to understand that, and that was helpful too. Yeah. And what else? The entertainment show program. Yeah, they have lots of subtitles and they show lots of this natural conversations. And I think commercials are really good resources too. I study abroad in China, and whenever I turned on this television, the commercials are repeated. So there was a Chinese commercial where Jackie Chan appeared, and he said "왕子정롱." That means expect your son to grow like a great person, and I never forget that four phrases "왕子정롱." So yeah, I thought that's a kind of good strategy too. And if you like some Korean drama, then watch it over and over again. That's a better than watching variety of Korean drama. So focusing on just one drama, then you understand the context well. If you watch it second time, third time, you will find different kind of things. That's how I practiced English. When I first came to America, Friends was already, still season 7 or 8 was on now. And whenever I turn on, they show the previous episodes over and over again. So I learned quite a lot from that drama. Yeah. So yeah, get into interest in some Korean drama.
감사합니다.
Yeah.
So, Professor Yu, thank you so much for a great talk on the subject of the AI translators. In an earlier conversation, you introduced a very interesting episode from your classroom where the person was trying to translate, I go by or I use they, theirs, and then the AI translator, Papago or ChatGPT had immense problem rendering that. So that leads to question about DEI. And in English, there have been some conscious efforts to try to repair, sometimes artificially and sometimes with less success, but for good reasons. The violence inherent and the inequities inherent in the English language. For Korean, which is so heteronormative and extremely gendered, and where so much of that gender difference is, as you've mentioned, ritualized rather than necessarily violent. What might something like this mean? What might DEI mean for Korean language teaching, pedagogy, etc.?
Yeah, it's a very heavy topic, so it's going to be another talk title. But DEI. So I just want to ask you guys. You are learning the Korean language. So when you learn this Korean language, many words are already gendered, terms like 언니, 오빠, 형, 언니, those kind of words are already imply that you are a woman and you are talking about men, so that are already there. And And in fact, this gender issues, the discussions in gender issues in Korea has not been so much mature compared to what we have discussed in the United States. So students have some issues when they have conversations with Korean people. So yeah, and one of my students tried to translate some text, and there is simply 동생, and this ChatGPT used sister or brother. They just randomly assigned this gender. So yeah, that's not really easy. Yeah. So yeah, it's a still challenging kind of thing. And in Korean language class, I may have heard some students feeling not carefully dealing with those kind of sensitive issues, because I was ignorant in the past, and now I'm a little more sensitive. But still, I think I'm still ignorant in many aspects. So I try to be very frank to my students. Korean society is like this, and there are these kind of people. There are, I sometimes you say there are crazy people like this, and there are, there are communities, who are very sensitive to these gender issues. So I introduce them to, both sides, and I try to be very fair and objective to this society, and I just let them analyze this Korean society, and we discuss lots of these gender issues in my class, and I just try to lead them to analyze Korean society in their own perspective, and they search their own ways to express themselves appropriately to Korean people. So you don't really have to say, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, or the random, hi, my name is somebody, and so it's up to them, and up to you guys. If you want to express yourself clearly, then you can find your own way to express yourself, appropriately. Or if you don't have, if you are not really care about that, then it's up to you. In Korean, Korean people think those issues are kind of very sensitive or taboo, or but generally Korean society is more conservative than the American society. So I just try to encourage them to develop their own perspectives on those issues more while learning the Korean language. Anybody has felt like uncomfortable while learning the Korean language? They don't really care about my identity or the variety of gender issues. Korean people are ignorant. Yeah, this topic has been getting more attention in the field of Korean language education. So yeah, but there is no good correct answer to this. But hopefully, the Korean society is more sensitive to this issue. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question. I'm curious about your research, sort of with. So we heard a lot about talk shows today, and I think by nature, like a talk show is really performative, and I'm wondering sort of how speech in talk shows compares to less performative situations. So like people among friends, like conversations among friends, maybe with family in the classroom, how the use of honorifics is the same or different between those kind of situations.
So, so as you said, they are performative, but I try to collect data from casual conversations and formal conversations, and real casual conversations are maybe more dynamic than talk show program conversations. So yeah, it might be a better next research if I can collect data among these naturally occurring conversations. Yeah, but I always observe people's conversation, and I see lots of dynamics in this conversation, and depending on this topic and depending on the atmosphere, it changes a lot. And another topic I am thinking about is this online communication. So when there's a news, people put their comments below there. And if this comment, this topic is very controversial, that they use lots of non-honorific styles. They blame each other. But if they are talking about some special, like a specialized, very specific topic in a serious way, they tend to use more formal style, language. So yeah, it's not about the formality or this mode of speech, but it's more like depending on the seriousness of the topic. So yeah, I think the written communication has some other interesting aspects too. So yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah.
선생님 안녕하세요.
예, 안녕하세요.
I'll speak in English for the group here. I was hoping to get your thoughts on this, but lately I've noticed situations where somebody would use non-honorifics and then try to switch to honorifics. But in those situations, I felt like the honorific expression wasn't necessarily done to all of a sudden switch positionality, but rather to index or signify ambivalence of one's position. So to give you an example, and I think Ji-Seok-jin uses this masterfully. So he'll find somebody who's younger, but whose social position, maybe because of wealth or status, is higher. So let's say a member of BTS is on the show, and he wants to speak to this person as someone who is lower in social status. It's like, 하지마! And then go, yo. 그래? Yo. And that yo that is added at the end there in a rather awkward, right, way after a pause, again, could be seen as him switching positions, but it could also, I thought, be interpreted as him trying to signify the ambivalence of status and positionality. I was wondering if I can get your thoughts on that.
So you know this term oppa, 알죠? oppa. So BTS members are oppa to anybody. So some older female calls BTS oppa. No, you are young, you are older than those BTS members. No, they are handsome and rich, so they are oppa anyway. And in talk show programs, if you are rich and famous, then you are my hyung. So I don't know in real if they do this in real conversation, but in that kind of case, it's kind of it's obvious that they are kind of joking around this situation. And Ji-Seok-jin's position is like he's the oldest person in the group, but many other members are look down on him. Whenever he makes more mistakes or like if he's not doing something well, they look down on them. So like in case of BTS members, so they are big fans, and if you treat them not in a good way, maybe their fans will criticize you. So yeah, I don't know if it's a kind of natural situation more, or it's a like talk show specific kind of situation. But yeah, maybe in real situation, if someone is really famous and rich, then maybe people tend to use more formal language and honorific language. Yeah, that's a kind of interesting point. So I will consider that for my analysis later. Yeah, in Joseon Dynasty, like in old Korea, Joseon Dynasty was like a class society. So now, even the noble class young kids, if you are lower class, then however younger they are, you have to use this honorific form. So it's like very, very clear in the past. But nowadays there's no class. So age is the most important factor. But if your boss is younger than you are, then you have to use this honorific form. And maybe that boss will use honorific form back to you. Well, maybe not if they are very rude. So maybe you will see that kind of situation in Korean drama thing, like, young boss and telling, this non-honorific style to older, like staff. So yeah, it's very tricky. And I told you about my serving the military, and one person, who is older than I am, he came from my university, and so he is 선배. But in this military rank was lower than me. So we were really awkward to each other. We never could be friends. We were kind of close, but after I discharged, finished my duty at the military, I never called him or we never met because, this language is kind of tricky. Yeah. So yeah, language matters. Yeah, this honorific is really important factor in human communication and human relationship in Korean society. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk, Professor Yoon. I heard in Korea that because of this complexity in honorifics and also because in so deeply implies the social status and 유교 사상 or 시대에 뒤처지기도 하고, it falls behind the times, so that there's a movement to get rid of this honorific system. So do you know much about this movement, and what do you think about this?
I think honorific system has been much more simplified compared to many years ago. And as I said, blunt and familiar styles are almost gone. So like in a context, a mother-in-law to her son-in-law, maybe 뭐뭐하네. Or when I was attending college, my professors used those kind of some blunt style to me. But nowadays, I don't see those styles are used in everyday conversation. So yeah, I guess honorifics will last, but the complexity will be more simplified in the future. In North Korea, I just briefly mentioned about North Korean case. Their honorific system is a little bit simpler than South Korean honorific system, but very strictly, they use them very strictly. Even though the forms are a little bit simpler, but I heard that this hierarchy is still very important. So yeah, the Korean people will use this honorifics for more, for longer time. But yeah, it is true that it has been simplified a lot.
Hi, I had a quick question because something that I think is important to, I don't know why I'm saying all that, but what are some strategies or stuff that you would think are important to determine when you can go from honorifics to non-honorifics? You brought up an example about when a student is talking to a teacher, if they're close enough, they can stop using stuff like 심니다 or something. I think about how restaurants in Korea, when I'm with my family, sometimes they get to know people who work enough that they just say, oh, 언니, 형, that type of stuff, instead of being like, oh, whatever your name, she, and that type of stuff. What are some ideas, strategies that you would have to determine when it's no longer rude to use non-honorifics?
Yeah, that's really tricky to Korean native speakers too. But I can say that this 씁니다 and 어요, 아요, they can be used interchangeably, and especially this 어요, 아요 is, I think it's formal enough. So yeah, in many public speech, we can see 어요, 아요 is very commonly used. So as long as you use honorific styles, you are okay with this socially higher people. And to your a little bit older friends, like 형, then just addressing them 형 and non-honorific style is going to be okay, but we don't know when is best time. If they let them say oh yeah, just say you can just speak more freely, then you got this permission. But otherwise, it's not easy to get. It's you need some experience with Korean people. Yeah. But switching around, honorific, non-honorific, it's more dangerous. But changing within this honorific style, speaking within this non-honorific style, then it's going to be okay. Yeah, they are interchangeable. Yeah.
You've said a couple times that honorifics are getting more simplified. You mentioned it with Chinese, then modern day Korean as well. Yeah. Do you think that this is because, as we have an ever more connected, globalized world, that younger generations of Koreans are becoming more exposed to languages, primarily English, that don't have these structures and are trying to change or adapt to these other types of languages? And if that's true, do you think it is a good thing that language across different cultural and geographic boundaries is becoming more homogenized in that way?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So Korean society is less conservative than before. So what's the reason? Well, maybe it's Western society's influence, or Korean society itself has been more evolved or more changed, throughout its history. So there are lots of factors, but the one thing clear is, in Joseon dynasty, it's very conservative society, it's much less conservative. So this change of atmosphere in the Korean society affects this language use. So yeah, language is a kind of mirror of this society. So that shows this change, and they use lots of English words. So maybe that's one of the evidences that the influence of English into Korean. And we use this, we communicate with people from other cultures more often. So that's definitely the reason, one of the reasons. And another reason I can think of is because of this internet community. Older generation people adopt younger generation culture more compared to the past. So when I was young, my father did not know about my culture well, but I can learn about high schoolers more or college students' culture more than my father generation knew about our culture. So so I found that many older generation people in Korea has been changed a lot. So yeah, that is reflected on this use of language use. So we never know how language will change in the future. But as you said, this globally, they influence to each other, and Korean language is following that kind of trend. And Korean language is not the language of just Korean people anymore. So there are many Korean speakers in the world, and I think world Korean, like it's not Korean by Korean, but I can see lots of comments in Korean written by foreign people, and sometimes they sound a little bit unnatural to me, but they are used very often. So yeah, they are adopted by Korean community. So yeah, that's how language is changing. 예, 감사합니다. 괜찮아요? 시간이 너무 많이 지난 거 아닌가요? 괜찮아요? 네.
Thank you, Professor Yoon,
Yeah,
for coming out all the way to University of Michigan for this insightful lecture. And I'll make sure to subscribe to your YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
예, 감사합니다. 예, 감사합니다.